Welcome to Ponchatoula Live, the show where we make it easy for you to connect with the people of Ponchatoula. I'm your host, Parker Layrisson, and today I've got a fantastic guest. This is one of my favorite people to talk to because he's not only incredibly successful, he's easygoing, down to earth, and just a lot of fun. He's a very bright guy who brings a unique perspective to Ponchatoula, and he's always a lot of fun to talk to. I'm talking, of course, about local landscape architect Tim Bailey. Tim, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Park.
I really appreciate you doing this. Why don't we kick things off with you telling our listeners and our viewers a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm a lifelong resident of Tangipahoa Parish. Grew up right down the street and on Pleasant Ridge Road in Hammond. Most people knew my father, like yours, Jake Bailey. He passed away some 20 years ago.
Absolutely. A local legend and school board, Hall of Famer, if you will.
Like that's right. They named the boardroom after him. A long time. I think he was on the board some 33 years. And
wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, I miss him every day. My mother grew up in Hammond as well, and she was on the board, I think, school board as well for 24 years.
Now, as I recall, did she take over his seat when he passed away?
She did, which surprised everybody because she was not political at all.
Yeah. Well, that's really neat. So what a legacy. So for roughly 60 years of continuous service, and that's amazing, man. That's really impressive.
So public service has always run very deep in our family. So I was raised by two public servants, and
and you're now doing your part as a member of the state Republican Party. I know you've been a delegate to the Republican, nominating committee for President Trump and much more.
Yeah, I was very fortunate this year. I was elected to be a delegate for the RNC in Milwaukee this year, and it was really a incredible experience. All the energy that goes into it. I didn't know what I was getting into, to tell you the truth, but in hindsight, I'm so glad I accepted to go and took the whole family. And like I said, it was history in the making as we were watching every day unfold, whether you like it or not. It's history in the making.
That had to be so fun. I can't wait to ask you more about that. But before we dig deep into that experience, let's go backwards to Pleasant Ridge Road. Share with us, if you will, what it was like growing up in the house of Jake and Sandra Bailey as a kid.
Well, that's a good question, and I love giving the rundown on what it was like growing up at the Bailey household. In that time, we grew up, 70s and 80s, and graduated from high school in 86. But it was just a great place to grow up. We had our neighborhood friends. There were probably very few Friday nights at a very young age that we didn't sleep in the woods at one of our little camps or tree houses.
Yeah.
I mean, all the time. Mom and Dad probably never knew where we were. We just would show up on Saturday.
Yeah, folks, this was long before iPhones and tracking devices. No Life 360 back in the 80s, right?
True as it could be. And so we would be out fishing, hunting, camping all weekend long. It was just thinking back, just the best time to grow up, and especially that part of the world. It was just a lot of woods around, So it was really a good time.
That had to be really neat. So when you say, y'all slept back in the woods, was it just you and family members, neighborhood kids? I guess my question is, who were you running with back then?
Yeah, I had an older brother who had older friends, and then I had my pack of friends. And then, so we were all we would sleep in two different locations, but the older kids would raid our camp, usually around after midnight every weekend. Take all
I love it. So you lived through Lord of the Flies, basically.
Yeah, it was, I could tell you this, I never served. I regret that to some degree, but I feel like I have. I've been through a few wars, and the way I was raised, my father took us on camping trips,
right?
And he was.
I'm kind of like you in that the extent I never served the military for real, But as a kid, we would do what we called pine cone wars, and you would be, through the tree house. It was
Exactly.
absolutely. Looking back, I'm fortunate to still have two eyes because we were not practicing the kind of gun safety. I'm talking BB guns here mostly, but
I
we
couldn't agree
were
more.
doing some wild stuff that I will hopefully never
Oh,
see my kids do.
I mean, if my mother only knew. I mean, when we came home, what was going on and how much dangerous stuff we were involved in the night before. She probably wouldn't believe it to begin with. But yeah, we would play this manhunt game at night. It's kind of I think some people call it capture the flag
Oh yeah,
games,
yeah,
and yeah. So and that
that's
was
tons of fun.
that was a normal game for us to play.
Yeah,
One time, my mother suggested that I join the Cub Scouts, and I don't have anything against Cub Scouts, but
right.
I joined it and soon quit because they wouldn't let you play manhunt on the campouts.
Too much structure. They expected you to sleep after midnight. You couldn't be out
Yeah,
running wild.
amongst pulling some pranks on kids.
Yeah.
I think they took my patch away too and sent me home.
Well, my kids, they're still little. They're 7 and 9.
Yeah.
But one of their favorite books through childhood has been Where the Wild Things Are. And it sounds like you kind of lived that one, right? Where the kid checks out during the night and goes into the wilderness and yeah, it's kind of pack hunting and all that, if you will.
That's a terrific book. That's
Yeah,
yeah.
isn't it great, man? The illustrations, the story, everything's just pitch perfect. In fact, my little boys had a birthday party with that as the theme one time, and I love the decorations. But you know what I love about little boys? I'm one of 4 boys, and our daddy was a wildlife agent when I was born. He eventually became sheriff, so very outdoorsy. We spent a lot of time outdoors, as you've described, doing a lot of the same things that you've mentioned. And even though my boys are coming up now at a different age, and there's less of that, and their mama won't let them stay out all night, but they still kind of run in packs, And so I took 7 of my son's friends fishing recently, and it was like they had the little wolf pack, and some of these are like the sons of my childhood friends, like
Yeah.
like Kyle Wolf, his son, who
Oh wow, yeah.
wants to call it the wolf pack because that's his name, and then the other kid's like, no, we're the dragon pack, but they do agree that they're a pack. They just can't agree on what kind of animal or mythical beast it is. But there's something so special about seeing boys in the woods playing with sticks, not iPads, getting dirt under their fingernails,
Yes,
and getting that kind of animal instinct going. So it's neat to hear
yes,
that you
indeed.
enjoy that so much.
I have 2 boys, and I put them in the woods a whole lot when they were growing up. And
Yeah.
in fact, we're talking about this at appropriate time. Good Friday was our normal camp out for my dad to take us all out, and all the neighborhood boys and the church boys
Oh,
that
that's
belonged to
neat.
this group called the RAs. It was a
Oh,
Baptist
I'm glad
group.
you mentioned that. So my boys are in the RAs at First Baptist Church in Ponchatoula.
Oh, well,
The
super, yeah.
program's run by Kevin Crevetto, who's well known and well
I know
respected.
him very well. A good
And
friend.
it's a great program. In fact, my wife teaches the GAs, which is the girls' version of that, same night, the Wednesday night thing. But I love that camp out is so much fun. I've enjoyed it so much, catching fish, riding horses, shooting bows and arrows. Tell me about your experience in the RAs. What was it like back then?
Well, it was interesting. They had a lot of older kids, like my brother, Doug Bailey. They had guys like James Griffith of Hammond. There's just a wide range of kids. And we would get out there. And one time my father said, okay, everybody give all your food. And he locked it into a big camper. And we had no food for over a day.
It's like an eat what you kill situation?
Yeah, so you had to go out and find your own food in the forest and cook it and boil it. And so we found
Yeah.
crawfish, and I think one of the kids actually killed some animal somehow, and we tore the skin off of it, and then we did survival things like that, and
Yeah.
it was great times. I can't imagine not having that in hindsight growing up.
Right.
I was so appreciative. And there's not many times that I don't run into someone that was part of the RAs that don't come and bring up the old campouts. And
Well, that's cool. And it's a great gang you mentioned. Like you said, James Griffith, he's a family friend of ours and a fabulous fellow. And just that's such a special experience. And, the memories that you take with you forever. I think about my son, first time he rode a horse was at the RA's camp out.
That's
I
it.
saw a picture recently of me on my first horse ride 40 years ago, 40 plus. And to have those memories is special. And like you said, because it's church oriented, it's a community thing. You're going to see these people, moving
Right.
forward throughout your whole life. So
That's
I'm
right.
here to report to you, it's still going strong, Tim. My boys have their little vests. They're very into getting the patches and stuff, and it's cool. And it's a good program. It teaches you about much more than just the fun stuff we're talking about, right? So if you have
Sure.
parents out there of little boys and you're thinking about the RA's program,
But
one
yeah,
dad here, I can hardly endorse it. Would you say the same, Tim?
I would say the same. And look, a lot of these kids back in those days, my father would bring and load in the truck on that Good Friday every year, were unchurched. They were raised by a grandma, uh,
Hmm.
didn't have a father to take them camping. And to this day, they always remind me how special that was and how it changed their lives, the course of their lives by being in that little group.
Yeah.
Their entire lives were changed by coming to that little small group
Yeah.
back in those days for
Well, they're
Woodland
seeing
Park.
a positive male role model in your father. They're meeting
Mhm.
other good kids like you and your brother, and they're finding their own sense of community and purpose. And that
That's
can
right.
alter somebody's life. And I'm so glad you mentioned that. My dear friend Marshall Graves runs an outreach ministry here. It's called Love is the Key. They
Yeah.
operate out of the Ponchatoula Community Center every Monday and every Thursday. And many, certainly most of the kids that he ministers to fit the description that you just mentioned. Grandmas, not a whole lot in the way of wealth or physical items in their house.
Sure.
Probably that pizza that they eat at that ministry that week may be the best nutrition they get all week.
That's right.
But they are learning from positive examples from community leaders, and it's really neat.
It
So
goes a
clearly, you
long
had
way.
strong influences in your life growing up
It,
outside the family, beyond your brothers, your dad. Who are other people that when you think back to your childhood, you're really glad were there for you?
I know we're supposed to name another figure in the community, but I would be remiss if I didn't talk about my grandmother. My mother's mother lost her husband, my grandfather, when she was around 60 years old. From that point on, her whole life changed. She became a missionary and lived all over the world. She was in the Middle East. She
Wow.
lived in Africa while we were
Uh-huh.
little kids and would send little videos home. She worked there as a medical technician, and the photographs were unbelievable back then, and it was every day an amputation or something.
Wow.
I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
in Tanzania, and so my mother has been wanting to go retrace those steps, and
Wow.
so if we can plan it right, this year coming up, maybe January next year, we're
Hmm.
planning on going. There's some people in our community that have places to stay there. Ryan Barker does
Yeah, Ryan
a
does.
safari.
Yeah, hunting trips over there, right?
Yeah, so we know people in our community. We can get there and find out where these villages were, where she worked.
Yeah, that'd be
And
so cool.
we have another one, Joel Dakari,
Hmm.
from the Mission Church, has a water well ministry in Tanzania. And so there's, I say,
Joel and
another
his wife
contact point.
Joy are amazing people. He's been on the show, and
Okay.
he's a friend of mine. We support that ministry through my firm. We've been donating to it for years. Tell us about that. Share, if you will, because I know they put water wells all over. It's one of the most inspiring stories ever, especially when you look at the fact that it's not just him going by himself, not just him bringing his wife. They bring the whole family over there.
I'm 6 to 7 children and a wife, and they all stick together. They
Yeah.
go as a team. They are now into Tibet. They are they're in South America. They are in Central America. They are in Guyana right now, drilling wells, and of course in Africa originally, and in Iraq. That is his new love is
Wow.
Northern Iraq, and he
So
was.
they go where the need is, irrespective of how far away it is, how poor it is, how
Yeah,
dangerous it is.
it
They're
doesn't
doing
faze
God's
him at
work. And they're
all.
not only bringing water physically, they are bringing the Lord's word there,
That's right.
bringing, scripture to the people that need it.
That's right. That we have someone in our community that is doing all this is very very unique, and
Yeah.
I hope more people get involved with that ministry. They're doing a great work, and it's growing. It's growing like
Yeah.
wildfire.
Well, it's one of the things I love about doing this show. I think we're about 170 episodes in, and it's
Yeah.
so cool. I guarantee you, it's at least 100 shows since Joel was on here.
Okay.
It was our early days. I remember he started filming at one church, and the internet connection was bad, so he moved to it. He came to the office, so it's kind of a two-parter.
Right.
But it's so cool because it's kind of like you're giving their program a free ad. Here we
Yeah.
are 2-3 years later, and it's kind of fun to see how this place weaves together. So clearly, I'm hearing here, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Tim. I don't want to speak for you.
Uh-huh.
Faith has always been a huge part of your life, and not just in terms of showing up on Sunday, sitting in the pew and listening and doing your part, but a works-based faith where you're helping your community. You clearly seem to have a servant's heart to me. Am I onto something there? Is that how you view, your background,
That is, but my role models, I have to give most of that credit for. Two grandmothers that served, my parents. I mean, I mean, their whole lives were not only serving in the community, but serving at church and children's ministries. Not too many people know this. My mother, to this very day, and when my father was alive, they have a ministry at the Children's Detention Center, the Florida
wow,
Parish
I did
Children's
not know that.
since the 90s, the early
Wow.
90s. She goes every Sunday morning and
Yeah.
brings a message to these children.
Wow.
And they look so forward for her being there. It's
I
around
bet.
8 or 9 in the morning every Sunday. And, that's part of the thing she does. She goes to the homeless shelters, the alternative school. And I know I'm talking a lot about her, but you asked
No, but
what
she
my
deserves
inspiration
it, and I'm
is.
glad you are, because the purpose of this show is to get to know you and your story,
Yeah.
and they are the foundation for your story and who you are.
And
And
look,
I mean, if you're blessed to have a great mama like you do, or a
look,
great father like you did, you ought to talk about them all you can.
this alternative school that we have in this parish needs some second looks. It is kids that aren't able to make it in the regular type school, but are given a second chance, and that is a huge asset that we have,
Wow.
because now, as we know, education is the answer outside
Yeah.
of Christ, as we know.
Is the school you're talking about, is this the one that used to be called Crystal Street? I think it's been renamed a few times. Okay.
Right.
I heard a ton. You're on the right track 100%. My wife's a school counselor, and
Right.
she spent her career in education. Also was a drug court counselor for juveniles, but always worked with kids. And she has sung the praises of that facility and what it's doing.
And
And you're right, it is vital.
it is, and people like to talk about public schools and whine about it, but the funny thing, Parker, everybody went to public school and they're successful. So I just, scratch my head like,
Well,
yeah,
let me tell you this. I've been blessed to get a great education. Starting, at my little private school I started at, St. Joseph, and I want to throw some props out to my principal, Charlene Meisner. She was awesome, and the
yeah,
teachers she had were incredible, and my kids are in good shape there. That's a school that ends at the 8th grade. So I then went to Ponchatoula High School, and I end up in Tulane and universities in Washington,
yeah,
D.C., and then back to the LSU Law School, where I'm proud to teach now and be on the alumni board of trustees. But 25 years of education from preschool to the end of law school, the smartest kids I ever sat next to were at Ponchatoula High School. The
yeah.
kids
How
that
about that?
succeeded the most in life graduated from Tangipahoa Hope Parish Public Schools. And so, my other classmates don't always love hearing that, but that's the God's honest truth. So
Right.
you're right. I mean, like any school system anywhere in the world, there are problems here. We have very limited resources. today's not the day to whine about those. The
Well,
big
ask
picture is
yourself,
that there's some great things coming out of there.
ask yourself, and those at home, ask yourself this: is there more opportunity now in school system than when you went to school? And the answer is
Oh,
overwhelmingly yes. And
by
that
a
is the
mile.
key.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
opportunity you're not getting? If your child wants to learn more and
Right.
more, there is nothing stopping
Yeah.
our system of if they will bring you to where you need to
Yeah.
be. They will bring you more resources.
Well, and
Whatever
I
you
can tell
need, it's
you,
there.
for example, my little law firm, we only have 5 lawyers. But 4 of us are the product of Tangipahoa Parish Public Schools. And the 2 youngest that I've seen come up, one started working for me in high school, the other shortly thereafter. One Ponchatoula High, one Hammond High. Ponchatoula High, she was able to graduate college by probably 20 years old. I mean, she went in with like a junior year credit equivalency because Ponchatoula gave her so many opportunities to start school early, to get extra scholarships. And by the time she got there, she just blew through her other classes. And, businesses like mine are now benefiting from that. So
That's right.
you're right. There are tons of opportunity there. And it's neat to see now the diversity the schools bring. They each have their own kind of signature programs. Whether you're in places like my wife's alma mater, Independence, or Hammond, or Ponchatoula, where I graduated, there are tons of opportunity. So thank you for sharing that and spotlighting that. And your mom deserves an immense amount of credit. As you mentioned to her earlier, like your father, she served, and that's a selfless job. School board is not one of those positions where I would assume, you tell me, I'm guessing here.
Yeah.
But it's not like a congressman, right? Where you're wearing a tux all the time and everybody's kissing your butt and treating you like the greatest thing ever. It's a selfless job. You get a lot of mad parents calling you to whine about little Timmy getting disciplined in school that week.
That's right. That's mostly what you get. You very rarely someone calling you to tell you what a good job you're doing. It's just the opposite.
Right.
So yeah,
right.
it's very taxing on the member and their spouses and family as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. When I was a kid, my dad was sheriff 24 years in his pre-cell phone era. And he had a publicly listed number. He always felt it was important that anybody be able to call him at any time. So, we eventually had to just set up the answer machine and put it on autopilot so we could screen the call, because you'd get dozens and dozens of calls every day. And my friends hated it because you're already nervous about calling a house and like you're leaving a message on the sheriff's, hey, Parker, this is Chad. Can you please pick up?
Yeah.
But you're right. There's a toll on the family there. It's a price we all pay. So thank you for paying that price along with your siblings and mom and everybody.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your next chapter. So you're growing up in the Bailey house, great foundation, wonderful parents, grandparents, church family, etc. Where do you go next? What's the next chapter?
Well, graduate from high school, and back then it was strange. You didn't put a whole lot of thought, or at least I didn't, into what you were going to do if you go to college. You may or may not. It wasn't. I don't know. At least where I came from.
You're talking to a guy that didn't declare major until my junior year, so I'm with you on this one.
Exactly. So you know what I'm talking about. So I go to Louisiana Tech out of Hammond High School, and thought I love the outdoors so much. So the obvious choice would be forestry, and so I spent a year doing that, and had a good friend, one of my best friends from Ponchatoula, Charlie Claunch, and he was at LSU and was in landscape architecture. And every time we got together, it was like, man, this sounds way better than this forestry stuff. And so I left after 1 year at Louisiana Tech, and went to LSU and got a degree from LSU. And it was a very taxing 5 years. It's a 5-year professional degree.
Right. So let's talk about that if you don't mind, because my roommate when I was at Tulane was in architecture there.
Okay.
And I didn't know till that happened that it was a 5-year, not 4-year degree. But I think landscape architecture, like just plain old architecture, it's not the most common profession ever. There's a heck of a lot more accountants, doctors, and lawyers in town than landscape architects. So if you don't mind, before we get back into your personal story, if you would tell us about the profession, like what do y'all do? How does the education work? And then what was your personal experience with that when you were
Well,
entering?
unbeknownst to me at that time, I found out that landscape architecture really encompasses the design of the entire globe. What I mean by that is an architect develops a plan for a building. The landscape architect is the master planner that puts the roads, the parking, the building that the architect designs all in one package. And so, and it's not so, and with the landscaping and all the pretty stuff, that comes last. So he needs to be versed in surveying. He needs to be versed in environmental issues, concrete, layout, design, construction, you name it. You wear a lot of different hats in this field. And so that's why there's a licensing board to be a landscape architect. And it's quite a grueling 8-part test that, of course, they make it to where you can't possibly do it all at once. It takes years and,
Yeah, like the
that kind
CPA
of thing.
exam. They want you to have to keep coming back in different parts. Yeah.
Yeah. So I finally get through that. And I go, at that time, the economy had tanked. It was 1990, 91. And so I put all these applications out at all my favorite places in the world, like North Carolina, South Carolina, all these cool places. Didn't get any bites.
You wait,
Florida,
like vacation destinations, right?
yeah,
It's like,
Florida.
yeah.
So I was very fortunate. I had been working in the summers in the Louisiana State Senate and during college. And so I met a few people, and thank God I did. I got a temporary appointment at Louisiana State Parks to be an architect for them. And when that appointment ran out, I got another appointment. And when that one ran out, I got a full-time status for Louisiana
So wait,
State
it's
Parks.
kind of proof. It's not who you know what you know. It's who you know, right?
Well,
At least in
God
part.
just had all that worked out. I think Miss Schwegman was the one that helped me out. She was public. Let's see, her husband was a public service commission that worked with my dad, and she became lieutenant governor, if you remember. And
Right.
and she's the one that helped me stay alive. I was struggling, starving to death, architect at the time, out of college, just got married. So very
That
grateful.
sounds a lot like how State Attorney General Richard Ayub helped me once upon a time with my $32,000 starting salary to be an assistant attorney general, which I was incredibly grateful for straight out of school. So
Yes.
that's what I loved about working at the state to start, and I didn't have the benefit of working in the legislature in college like you did, but it was an introduction to so many different people. The work didn't pay much, wasn't the most glamorous. Had an office with no windows there in Baton Rouge, but you got to know people everywhere you went. And here I am, 20 plus years later, and those contacts are helping me to this day. Did it work out that way for you, or what was it like?
Most definitely. Your relationships through life, and I'll leave that with some of you younger folks watching this podcast. Your relationships are everything. You never burn any bridges. Where you go and work, that may not be your career, but who you meet at that restaurant or wherever you're working, that person will possibly, some of those people you meet will be able to help you or help your children years down the road. You never know what roadmap God has in place for you. And so you always want to be aware and be friendly and kind to everybody you come in contact with, especially when you're first starting out.
That's great advice. And when you get to be my age as an attorney, you learn the hard way that many of the people that you were in class with are now judges. And if you didn't handle that right 25 years ago, you might be thinking, wow, I wish I'd have been a lot nicer to her and shared my notes during torts class.
I could see that.
But really, whether you have a profession like ours where they can one day wield a gavel to decide, your demise or success or not, it behooves you, like Tim says, to be nice to everybody on the way up. You will meet those same people on the way down.
You
So
too.
it sounds to me like you've got a very interesting start to your career. It's consistent in a way with the public service you're learning from your parents, not
Mhm.
elective, but rather kind of appointive. But you're working for the state, you're serving the state, and you're applying your professional degree. What was the work like, and where did it take you
Well,
next?
well, it was interesting. We were able at the time, Louisiana State Parks at that time had a windfall of money. And when the rest of the state was laying people off, state parks was thriving. And so, not that I was getting it, but the state parks were being renovated. We started building new state parks, Lake Direbone State Park out of Ruston, new cabins at Toledo Bend State Park. We had master plans for new state parks like Bogachita on the books. Tickfall State Park, Tank Powell was very instrumental. I got a little story about him.
Yeah,
He's
well,
a
he kind of got that place created,
look,
right? Am I
look,
wrong?
folks. This was a rookie state representative. Probably his first day on the job. I think I saw him over there, and when the committee rooms, and I went with him with we did an impact study of what Tickfall State Park might bring, and we had a schematic of what the park might look like. And he took that little bit of information, and within a few months, he, with the help of with some others, Chloe Fontenot and some other ones, took that and got that thing approved by the next year. Now that's unheard of.
Wow.
I don't
Not
know,
only
was it
did he get it
eight to
done, but
ten,
rocket
eight,
docket. That's unprecedented.
$8 or $10 million? I still don't know how he did it,
Yeah,
but he did it,
that's amazing.
and it was really neat to see. And I oversaw the construction there, and
That's
for those
cool.
of you who haven't been out there, it's just a great outing right up the road. You take your kids. It's got the
Yeah.
boardwalks open now. You can
Well, I
go
think it's
camp.
a beautiful facility. I did a great job, and it's so neat. I think to be able to create something out of nothing. It's kind of like
Isn't that
with the dew freshes and the wheats and all the people that created Pard back in the day. My good friend Jason Hood did the same thing with Chapapila Sports Park in Hammond. Nobody does it alone. Plenty of others deserve credit for these, but Representative Powell and you and a kind of band of misfits, if you will, at least at
yeah.
the got this great thing done that's going to endure for generations and generations. That's got to make you feel good, huh?
And you touched on something really important as a designer. Making something out of nothing is kind of the draw. When people get into the profession of design, build, and architecture and engineering, even, there's just something so self-satisfying, self-gratifying in having a thought and putting it on paper and then seeing it built to fruition.
Yeah.
There's like nothing. There's nothing like it.
Yeah, well, you,
So,
you remember the show, The A-Team, when we were kids or young? With
well,
Mr. T was the driver, the B.A. Baracus, but
yeah,
it was these kind of
yeah,
outlaw war criminals or whatever.
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
remember the full plot. But I
Uh-huh.
remember the head guy, he used to have it, his saying was, I love it when a plan comes together. And it's kind of
Exactly.
like every time he would come up with a scheme, that was what he'd say. And to me, that's a little bit what it's like. And I've never done it, and certainly never done anything big like you did. But I know in the law, a trial can feel like that. When you create a theory of, okay, we're going to prove this with this witness and that with this evidence, and you're orchestrating something. It's like a football play. It's like everybody knows sweep left, sweep right, but when you're creating some new trick play and it works, it's like
That's right.
eureka. And maybe what you're describing is something similar. Um,
Absolutely.
is that what really kind of gets your juices flowing and inspires you in what you do?
It does. You meet with a client. We build swimming pools and all design builds. So if someone wants a pool and patio, we love creating it for that person. So when I meet with that client for the first time and they start rattling off, well, I'd like, the spa over here. I want to come out of the house and I want an outdoor kitchen and I want to enter the pool this way and I want a backdrop there. And I'm just scribbling down words. This starts with words, not any lines on the paper. And that is the biggest key to having a good design is taking good inventory and then of that inventory, analyzing what's there now, what needs to be
Mhm.
screened, what is the best views, what's the bad views, How can we, in close proximity, enter this pool or patio with any obstacles? And you start to answer those questions. And I'm sure this is a process that you use even in your law practice. What's the goal? What's the program elements? And then what's the analysis?
Yeah,
And
yeah. You
then,
begin with the end in mind, and then you engineer how to get there.
so form doesn't come yet.
Yeah.
Remember the old commercial, form follows function?
Right, right.
Well,
Yeah.
that's exactly the elements of design. If you want to have the best possible design, you must follow.
Well, let me jump in here because I want to get to asking you about exactly what you do and follow up on what you just described.
Yeah.
But let's begin with an endorsement, a testimonial, if you will, because I want to disclose to all of our viewers and listeners. I'm not just a friend, but I'm a client, and my wife is too. And for those that know Brandy, they know she's got way better style than I do, much more vision. She's all that. I'm just kind of along for the ride. But as you described that first client interaction, I'll never forget the first time you come over to our house and we're walking around and making all these plans. And my wife's an explainer who speaks 90 to nothing. And she's just rattling off all these ideas. And, we've never had a pool before. We don't know anything about any of that stuff.
Yeah.
The last house we lived in before this one had one bathroom and was 1,600 square feet of rectangle built in the 40s or whatever. And anyway, at first it just seems so abstract. And Tim, I cannot thank you enough. I cannot brag enough to anybody who might be interested on how great it looks now. We are 100% satisfied with this beautiful. It's really like an oasis here in town. And every night when I look up at the uplighting into the bamboo, that was your idea, and just the perfect execution of what Brandy asked for and other aspects, it's sublime. I won't pretend to kind of know how you got there or what it took to kind of get from function and ideas to that form. But I want people to know that you are great at what you do. And I can't speak for any of your other customers, but we are highly, highly satisfied. The work was done well. It was done on time. And the product is beautiful. And we enjoy it practically every day. If we're not swimming or enjoying the spa, we're at least looking at this beautiful showpiece out of our back window. And anyway, I just want to say all that for you so that as you dig in here, people don't think you're blowing your own horn. We were happy to pay you money to do that, and it was worth every penny. So if you would,
Thank you very much.
Leave your company, what you do, where y'all do it. Tell us about the services you offer and everything.
So my company name is Gold Leaf Pools and Landscape, and we're a design build firm. So that means that you may not build a pool, but you might need landscaping or sidewalk or a patio, anything in the outdoor environment. We're able to design for you and build. And so we operate right here out of Ponchatoula, and our services go from Slidell to the South Shore. We work in Baton Rouge and Ascension Parish as well. So we're pretty broad on where our services are, and overall it's a design build firm. But if you have any needs like that, especially for pools, I don't know if I could say the number, or maybe we could put it on the screen. I'm not.
Yeah, go for it, and I'll ask my producer to put it in the comments,
Oh,
and we'll try to absolutely do that. Please share how people can get in touch.
Okay, it's by phone. It's 985-320-1417. That's Gold Leaf Pools and Landscape, and I'm Tim Bailey.
So Tim, I got a comment coming in. I just shared how nice our pool is, and my buddy Marshall. Now y'all got to know Marshall Graves is family to me. He says this awesome pool that I have not swum in. It's good to know that he's hiding it from me. Marshall, it just got finished over the winter. We're waiting for this sucker to cool off a little bit to invite you over. But I can promise Amy and the kids will get invited before you. I hope y'all are doing well, brother. Good to see you. I hope you were watching earlier when we were talking up your outreach ministry. That's such a great program. And I want to give my mom some props. The Strawberry Festival was last weekend, and my mom sells jewelry and whatnot in her front yard during the festival so that she can donate to charity. And for the last few years, she has chosen Marshall's outreach ministry. Love is the key each year. So thanks to everyone who shopped with Mom. The money's going to a good cause, and Marshall is the one doing that. Our producer, Danny Lynn Dennis, has put the name of the company as well as the phone number here. Again, that's 985-320-1417. You can reach Tim Bailey with Gold Leaf Pools and Landscape. And I'm glad you mentioned that you go beyond the pools, because while we love the pool, we love the surrounding area. You know, my wife, we have a home that we remodeled, but we did not build. We were coming off a plan where we were going to build a pool exactly how she wanted it. And one of the things she did not love about our house was how you had to kind of tromp through the house to get to the pool and dirty everything up. And so she mentions this to Tim in one, first meeting, I think. And he comes up with a very elegant solution of this beautiful pathway next to a garden that went around the house. It's beautiful. It's functional. And you design that, yourself, lickety split, and built it. And it just, the process was great. You helped us so much in picking out the materials, trying to figure out, how does this, was it limestone or travertine or whatever, match up with this other, just came out great. So I can't sing your praises enough, Tim. Thank you for that. How does it make you feel when you meet your client, a customer like me, and they're singing your praises, and because you really can, you're kind of changing how happy our days and weekends are, man. What's that feel like to hear that?
That just warms my heart, because that is a designer's dream to hear, the customer say, you know what, I'm able to use this space now like I hadn't before. And now the children can do this and that and enjoy the backyard. And as our economy changes, and people aren't traveling as much as maybe they used to be, and we went through that big pandemic and all that. It's, to me, if you have the means, it's important to create your own oasis at your home, because you never know when you're not going to be able to get out and around. And
that's a great point. And you get so much utility when it's at your home. I mean, we love to travel. That's our passion. And the money we can save goes toward, you and I talk a lot, and you and I share a lot of the same favorite places on the West Coast, particularly. But man, one, it's really expensive and hard to get out there. And then two, the timing has to work. If this kid's got this camp that week or a ball game the other week, it becomes impossible. Right. But at the end of the day, there are only so many days you can travel the globe and swim in somebody else's beautiful pool. But if you have something at your house, you kind of turn your own place into a resort. And look, pretty neat.
If you can't, afford a pool and so forth, there are other means. You just got to work with what you have.
Right.
You may find solace in like a koi pond or just an outdoor sitting area, an arbor. That's the power of the design. It not only has to match what you want to accomplish in the backyard, but it needs to match a budget. It's just,
right.
All budgets are different.
That's a great point. So if you don't mind, let's circle back a little bit to the profession of landscape architecture, particularly to the type that you do with the pools and outdoor areas you've described. What's a day in the life like in that job? I mean, if there's a kid sitting at home who's thinking, man, I'm not happy at La Tech, I'm thinking about transferring to LSU, and then a landscape architect, program looks good, like you did back in the day, what would you tell them about the day-to-day of the job?
Well, first I would tell them that landscape architecture is very broad, and the School of Landscape Architecture at LSU wasn't very fond of the build part. They wanted you to be a full-blown 24-hour-a-day architect and designer. But now,
so by that you just mean come up with the plan, hand it off to somebody else to execute, and peace out, you're done.
Right. And where they're coming from, in other states, let's just say the state of New York, it is not uncommon to have a development, say in Manhattan, and the lead firm in a multidiscipline project is the landscape architecture firm who hires the engineers, who hires the architects, and they are the ones that put the packages together.
Okay.
And so when you look at it in a broader scale, in a world scale, in fact, um, that's where those professors are coming from, because they came from these other states and they saw the potential to take the lead on the designs. And what you get from that, I believe, is a better project, because you take these designers are able to take pedestrian ways more seriously. The environment, that's like
Well, you
very
start from the big picture. You're like getting the big view from overhead before
right.
you descend into the details. If you start on the details, but it's in the wrong spot, maybe it's
That's
too late and you're screwed, right?
Very well said. Very well said. And so, if you encompass, the environmental issues, pedestrian issues, circulation, um, and aesthetics, then you're probably going to have a pretty good project. And so, that is our motto, really, for licensed landscape architect, and also take health, welfare, and safety of the general public in your
Yeah.
designs.
Well, you seem to have a passion for what you do, which is important, I think, regardless of your profession. Clearly, you've been very successful in this field. If you don't mind, again, focusing on younger people who may be watching, what do you view as the keys to success? What have helped you get from Pleasant Ridge Road and a solid upbringing with great parents to the man you are today and the professional success that you are today?
Well, I would say that if you're a youngster and you're watching this podcast, there's a roadmap for your life. I don't know if it's what I do, but if it is, great. And education, is, of course, and experience is the first steps to that.
Amen.
But there is a roadmap, and one needs to be quiet and watch and learn from people that know more than you. And yeah, I know that's
Yeah,
hard
I
to.
have a hard time with the be quiet, but you're right. At 48, I know that you're right. At 18, I didn't maybe get that as well.
Yeah, you know, be be vigilant, but just watch and learn, and write down what is it that you're good at, what are your passions,
Right.
and allow, and then this is a spiritual issue as well. Allow God to show you. Just pray. God,
Amen.
what what is it that I'm supposed to do? Can you save me some time? And He will. And
And would you agree with me, Tim, that you don't have to have it all figured out today? You can only
you
take
don't.
one step at a time. So let's figure out
Well,
the step in front of us, and God's going to get us, where we need to get eventually. Am I wrong or?
no, you're very right. And listen to me carefully. You are only responsible for the next right step. The next step. That's it. Not 10 steps, not a mile away.
Right.
The next step in front of you, that's what you're responsible for. And the next step will be revealed. But
Yeah.
you gotta watch. You need to be, you know, not cluttered, and it's hard to do when you're a youngster. I know.
Absolutely. Much easier said than done.
I've got
Well,
kids right now in college age. One just
yeah.
graduated from architecture school from Louisiana Tech, and he's in
Oh,
Dallas.
wow. Congrats. That's exciting.
Yeah, and I got another one's a senior at Southeastern. So
Very
we
cool. What's that one studying?
that one is a business major. So
Oh, neat.
the spectrum is broad, but
Yeah.
he's thinking about law school.
Oh, wow. Well, send him my way. I can try to talk him out of it. Half kidding, half not. But if he's serious about that, please let me know. I would love to introduce him.
Sure.
I practice a very narrow area of the law. I'm kind of a one-trick pony. I can only really help people who are injured in car wrecks, truck wrecks, things like that. But by virtue of teaching at LSU and serving on the alumni board of trustees, and frankly, just having friends that went off to other more glamorous, careers, I can help introduce him to people who can talk about the pros and cons,
I
because
appreciate that. I'm sure he
it's
does.
a great profession in many ways, but it's also not what you see on TV, if that makes any sense. My friend Marshall Graves, when you were giving that advice about career in the next step, he commented that was awesome advice. And Marshall, of course, I agree. Thank you for chiming in. Tim, I promise I get you out of here on time. I just looked up. We've taken longer than expected. And for that, I thank you for your patience and your generosity with your time.
That's
But
fine.
before we go, I want to ask you, is there anything else on your mind, on your heart, just anything else in the world you want to share with our viewers and our listeners before we close down?
Well, I do want to, I would be remiss as well if I didn't comment about your mother. And, you know, she, when we're talking about landscaping and plants and botanicals, and not to mention what a asset she is to our community. You just spoke about the fundraising for the Strawberry Festival. I mean, that goes, no one knows that. And, you know, I want her to know that I notice. And, yeah.
Thank you. That means a lot. I know it means a lot to her too. And I
And
love that you gave, your grandmother props because, my family, I didn't have grandfathers growing up. Sadly, they
right.
had passed and moved on before I was born. But I had two incredible grandmothers, and they were so strong. They were forced into being kind of self-made women. One from kind of a position of prominence and relative wealth for a small town, and my dad's mother, who owned a little insurance agency with her sister, and they were kind of well-to-do ladies. But my other grandmother came from abject poverty. She was a seamstress with four kids, and man, she was just the best moral guideline I could have. And I think these kind of ladies don't get the credit. It's much flashier to talk about a daddy who was sheriff or a school
That's
board
right.
member or mama who's a school board member than these great grandmas that just kind of got up every day and kept everybody together and made sure our butts were at school on time and at church on time. And
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that with you. And
Yeah.
my grandmothers didn't travel the world to save the world like yours did, but they certainly did their part right here in Ponchatoula.
Yes, they
Um,
do.
and so thank you for sharing that. I knew when we started this, I would love this interview, and I have. So thank you for your time. You're
You're very
always a
welcome.
blast to talk to. Folks, if you guys are thinking about a pool or thinking about anything that you need done in your yard, around your house, in that outdoor realm, I highly recommend you call Tim at Gold Leaf. One more time, I'm going to put up his phone number here. It's 985-320-1417. Gold Leaf Pools and Landscape. Awesome job. Tim Bailey, one of my favorite people in Ponchatoula. So thank you all. And to our viewers and listeners, we'll see you next week. All right, y'all take care.